Welcome, dear friends, to Exodus chapter 16. I tell you what, if you are here, you have been on quite a journey. I am grateful that you are here. I'm grateful to be here. I am learning so much in this journey through Exodus. I'm learning so much about who God is, truly knowing and enjoying Him, and understanding a little bit more about my own humanness and brokenness. And don't we learn that from today's lesson? Oh my, we have some more grumbling going on. So let's just dig right in. Friends, I went with those who, what, where, when, how kinds of questions. And so I'm just going to walk through that very quickly. The who, that's not changing that much, right? We have the people of Israel, Moses and Aaron, and the Lord, Yahweh, the one who is, that I am who I am. When does this passage take place? Well, verse 1 tells us that this is after they had departed from Egypt. So they are on this journey, right? God has brought them out of Egypt, and He is leading them on a journey to the promised land. Where are they in this passage? Well, verse 1 makes it abundantly clear that they are in the wilderness of sin between Elam and Sinai. So that was that mountain that God promised Moses and the people would serve Him on. So there is still in the midst of the wilderness. And remembering, we defined that last week. The wilderness, this is desert. This is rough. This is a rough tour of duty. So what happens here? Well, we see the people grumble against Moses and Aaron, and while they are on this journey in the wilderness, and we have to ask why. Why are they grumbling this time? Last week, we saw them grumbling because they were thirsty. They needed water, and that was a serious problem. Today, we see they are hungry. They are running low on food. And this word for hunger really points to famine. It points to a severe shortage of food. So we can't just skip right over this. So many of us don't know what it is to be truly hungry, to experience famine, to experience a real shortage of food. I have a pantry full of cans and things. My husband and I could probably eat for a pretty long time before experiencing true famine. So we need to understand here is a real problem in the midst of the desert, and this is why they are grumbling. But this is also a practical test, isn't it? All right, so let's just kind of understand these, what we learn from asking these who, what, where, when, how kinds of questions. So I went over then and I understood it. All right, they have just left, the Israelites have just left Elam. All right, they've just left Elam. And if we remember where we left off last week, we know that at Elam, they had 12 springs of water. 12 springs of water, one spring for each tribe of Israel. And they have these 70 palm trees. Like God provided for them so richly in Elam. This was His mercy to them. This was His great mercy, even after they grumbled and complained against Moses for their lack of water. All right. So I also, at this point, where they are in the midst of the wilderness, what all have they learned? Like, what all have they seen and witnessed firsthand in regards to the Lord. Friends, I think this is so important. We saw, if you were a part of the book 1 study, we saw, look, God wants them to remember. He wants them to remember what he has done. In fact, I think that's where we started in this book. But what if they witnessed? What if they seen the Lord provide? Friends, they have witnessed Moses' staff turning to a serpent. They have witnessed water turning to blood. They have been, let's just say, they know all of these signs and wonders that the Lord did in Egypt. The frogs, the gnats, the swarms of flies, the plague on the livestock, the boils, the hail, the locusts that affected the people of Egypt, but they themselves were okay. The Lord protected them. He was their shield. They experience, or they know of, the darkness, but God provided. This was severe darkness over the people of Egypt, but God gave them light. They experienced all the death of the firstborn in Egypt, but theirs were protected by this Passover lamb. They experienced freedom from captivity through this experience. Next, they were saved. They were rescued by God at the Red Sea in the most miraculous and stunning and glorious way. And then they have seen Moses, through the Lord, turn bitter water into sweet water at Marah. And then they just left off at Elam, where they have these 12 springs of water. All right. Wow. It's like, okay. So when we look at their grumbling, when we look at their fears, after reviewing all that they know, all that they have personally experienced from God. Oh, and I forgot too, God is leading them. He is present with them. He is this pillar of cloud by day and this pillar of fire by night. He is the one who is very present with them. And now they are grumbling and complaining. And in their grumbling and complaining, they are thinking and speaking a lie. Where do I get that, friends? That is verse 3, when they say, "For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." That's a lie. It's believing a lie and thinking a lie. And this is everyone. The word says it's the whole congregation begin to think and speak a lie. And friends, what is grumbling? We talked about this last week. This is to make complaining remarks. This is to make noises under one's breath. This is murmuring. This is complaining that can be uttered in a low and almost indistinct tone. This can be eye rolling. This is an attitude of the heart, right? This is grumbling and complaining. And this is what they do. They are believing and thinking and speaking a lie. Would God have done all of these signs and wonders? Like, let's just think about it logically. Would he have done all of these signs and wonders? Would he have rescued them all of these times only now to let them starve to death? That's where we're at. That is where we are at. So I just asked this question. Wow, Carmen, if you were God, how would you respond to this grumbling? And friends, I know, I know I would not respond in the gracious and merciful and slow to anger and steadfast and faithfulness and love way that Yahweh does. Doesn't he? What? All it says, verse 4, "Then the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I am about to rain bread from heaven for you." I am going to rain down bread for you, for these people who are grumbling and complaining, not against you and Aaron, Moses. They're grumbling and complaining against me. God makes that abundantly clear here. Your grumbling is not against, well, Moses says this to the people, your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord. It's like, look, who are we? Who are we? We're just the mouthpieces for the Lord. You are grumbling against the Lord. All right, but look at God's response. And so it begs the question, what is it that we learn about who God is from today? Oh my goodness, he is merciful and gracious and slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness to his people, the people of Israel. We see his merciful response to them, even in the midst of their lack of faith. Their lack of faith. That's what this grumbling shows, right? We see him in verse 4. He will provide once again miraculously and mercifully. Like we've just gone through a whole long list of ways that God has been merciful to them. How God has let them see him. Like this is faith is seeing without, or this faith is believing without seeing. They have seen so much. But he's going to provide once again, miraculously, this bread from heaven. We see, as we talked about last week, God tests. He tests. What is he testing? He's testing faith. He's testing hearts. He wants to know, what is it we are thinking about him? Number 4, it is God who rescues. We're reminded that once again from verse 6. Look, it's God who brought you out of Egypt. Number 5, God hears their grumbling. And I just put a big yikes. God hears our grumbling, friends. Ugh, ugh. And then we're going to see God provides once again. God gives food. He's going to give meat to his people. Friends, this grumbling, doesn't it hit hard? It ought to hit hard. And I just ask this question, is all grumbling in this wilderness journey against the Lord? Is all grumbling in this wilderness journey against the Lord? It is here. It is here. And on this spiritual journey, look, David in Psalm 23 talks about this journey through, how does he say it? How can I just kind of fritz out on Psalm 23? Even though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That's where these people are. And we all are walking in the valley of the shadow of death. This is the land of sin and death. And I think we need to ask, is all grumbling against the Lord in the midst of our wilderness journey? Friends, that's my application for today. And I'm asking this question, how to live different? How could the people of Israel responded differently? Did the story have to read this way? Did they have to grumble and complain? No, they could have responded with faith. We've gone through the long list of things that they have witnessed, that they have seen, how the Lord has marvelously and gloriously provided for them time after time after time after time after time. How could they live differently? Oh, when they are afraid, when they are hungry, this hunger was a real problem. Couldn't they just honestly turn to the Lord and cast their anxiety, cast their care? That's what Peter says in 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxieties to him because he cares for you. Friends, that is living by faith. We are called to trust, to believe, to have faith. Oh, help us, Lord.